Level 1. You're 22 years old. You're sitting in a lecture hall at UNAM in Mexico City. Constitutional law. Second year. The professor is talking about due process. Everyone's taking notes. You're writing down every word. You're the first in your family to go to university. Your father drives a taxi. Your mother sells tamales outside of school. You got here on a scholarship and sheer stubbornness. You have no connections, no family friends and law firms, no uncle who's a judge, nothing. But you're sharp, sharper than most people in this room, and you know it. After class, a classmate named Rodrigo finds you in the library. His family has money. You can tell by his watch, his shoes, the way he never checks prices at the cafeteria. My uncle has a firm, Rodrigo says. They need interns, criminal defense. You say yes before he finishes the sentence. The firm is in Polanco. Glass building, marble floors. The partners wear Italian suits and speak English fluently. It's a different world. Your job? Make photocopies. Organize case files. Sit in on client meetings and say nothing. Learn. On your third week, a man walks in with 2 bodyguards. He's calm. Expensive cologne. The partners stand when he enters. You don't know who he is. You find out later. He runs logistics for one of the largest cartels in the country. No one says that out loud. They call him a businessman. You file his documents. You say nothing. You go home and stare at the ceiling. This is the first test. You passed it by doing nothing. You graduated. Top 10% of your class. The firm hired you full-time. Salary isn't much, 18,000 pesos a month, but you have a title now, Junior Associate, Criminal Defense. Your job is to handle the low-level cases, drug possession, minor assault, traffic violations for clients who happen to work for very serious people. You learn quickly that there are 2 kinds of law in Mexico, the law in the textbooks and the law that actually works. A client is arrested at a checkpoint with 3 kilos of cocaine. Open and shut case. Except the arresting officer didn't follow proper search protocols. You file a motion, the judge agrees, case dismissed. Your supervising partner calls you into his office. Good work, he says. 2 weeks later, you handle a similar case. But this time, the evidence was properly obtained. There's no procedural angle. The case is unwinnable. Your partner tells you to visit the prosecutor's office. He hands you a sealed envelope. Give this to Licenciado Fuentes, he says. He'll know what to do. You sit in the car for 10 minutes. Then you walk into the building and deliver the envelope. The charges are reduced. Your client walks. You just paid your first bribe. No one talks about it. No one will ever write it down. It's just how things work. You go home. You don't sleep well. But you come back the next morning. You're 27, 3 years in. You're not just filing motions anymore. You're being trusted with real problems. A mid-level cartel distributor was arrested in Guadalajara. He's been in custody for 72 hours. The clock is ticking. After that, formal charges must be filed. Your firm gets the call at midnight. You're in a car by 12:30. You arrive at the jail. You meet with the duty commander. You explain, politely, professionally, that your client's rights have been violated. His phone call was delayed, procedure wasn't followed. While you talk, a colleague handles something else in a back office, an envelope, a different kind of conversation. By 4 a.m., your client is released on procedural grounds. You drive back to the city as the sun comes up. You feel something, not pride exactly, power maybe. The ability to make a problem disappear. You're now the person they call in the middle of the night. Your salary doubles, then doubles again. You move from a shared apartment in Coyoacán to your own place in Condesa. You buy a good suit. You start going to restaurants where the menu has no prices. People in the firm treat you differently, not as an intern anymore, as someone useful. But your mother calls one Sunday. She asks what kind of cases you work on. Corporate clients, business disputes. She says she's proud of you. You change the subject. You're 30. You didn't plan for this moment. It just arrived, like most things do, gradually, then all at once. The senior partner calls you into his office. He closes the door. He doesn't sit behind his desk. He sits in the chair next to you. Informal. That means this conversation doesn't officially happen. Our most important client wants you as his personal counsel. The client is a plaza boss, controls an entire state. His organization moves hundreds of millions of dollars in product every year. The partner slides a contract across the table. Your new retainer, $80,000 per month, deposited to an offshore account. You sign it. Your life changes overnight. You now travel with a driver. You enter meetings through side doors. You carry 2 phones, one registered in your name, one that doesn't exist. Your job is to protect one man from the full force of every law enforcement agency in Mexico, the United States, and Interpol. You build a wall of legal protection around him. Shell companies to hold his assets, trusts registered in Panama and the Cayman Islands, real estate purchased through nominees, people whose names appear on documents but who own nothing. When his men are arrested, you handle the cases. You manage a network of junior lawyers across 6 states. They show up. They file motions. They negotiate. They pay who needs to be paid. When a witness is about to testify, you don't threaten them. That's not your job. You find procedural reasons to delay the trial. You challenge the chain of custody on every piece of evidence. You file motion after motion after motion until the prosecutor wants to die. You're not breaking the law. Technically, you're using the law as a weapon. Level 5. The money man. You're 33. Protecting the boss isn't enough anymore. The organization is making too much money. Hundreds of millions of dollars that can't exist on paper. They need it cleaned. They need it moved. They need it to become legitimate. This is where you earn your real money. You set up a network of ghost companies, a construction firm in Monterey that wins government contracts you helped arrange, a chain of restaurants in Cancun that reports 3 times its actual revenue, a real estate development company that buys land at market value and sells it at a loss, because the loss was never real. You work with accountants, with bankers who ask no questions, with notaries who certify documents they've never read. The money flows in dirty. It comes out clean. You also manage international transfers, correspondent banks in Miami, Houston, Los Angeles, cryptocurrency wallets converted to cash through exchanges in Dubai and Hong Kong. You never touch the money directly. Everything goes through layers. Companies owned by companies owned by companies, each one in a different country with different disclosure laws. The DEA calls this a sophisticated financial architecture. You call it Tuesday. Your personal cut is now $300,000 a month. You have a house in Miami that doesn't exist in your name. You have an apartment in Madrid that doesn't exist in your name. You have a pension fund in Luxembourg that is technically owned by a Panamanian foundation whose beneficiary is a trust registered in Liechtenstein. Even you sometimes have trouble tracing it all. Level 6. The political operator. You're 36. You've learned something important. The best legal protection isn't in a courtroom. It's in an office building in Mexico City. Your boss needs a senator, not a bribed senator. Those are too risky. He needs one he owns, someone who believes genuinely that supporting certain legislation is good for their state, someone who doesn't realize who's been funding their campaigns for the past 6 years. That's where you come in. You don't meet with politicians directly. You work through intermediaries, consulting firms, think tanks, PAC equivalent organizations. You donate to campaigns through legal channels. You connect candidates with business communities in your client's territory. You facilitate meetings between cartel-friendly mayors and state governors. You also manage the relationship with the police. Not the street-level cops, those are handled by others. You manage the commanders, the generals, the men who decide where the military doesn't patrol, which operations get advance notice, which arrest warrants sit unsigned on someone's desk for 3 years. This is called institutional management. You're a lawyer. You're also a lobbyist, a political strategist, a fixer, a diplomat. You attend galas. You sit on the boards of legitimate charities. Your name appears in newspapers as a prominent attorney and civic leader. Your mother sees the article. She frames it. She still doesn't know. Level 7. The International Counsel. You're 40. Your boss is expanding. He has agreements with Colombian suppliers, distribution networks in the United States, transit routes through Central America, money flowing through banks in Europe and Asia. This requires international legal infrastructure. You build it. You spend 3 months in London. You register 3 holding companies in the British Virgin Islands. You open accounts in Liechtenstein. You establish a legal services firm in Panama City, staffed with local lawyers who handle the local paperwork and ask no questions about the clients behind the clients. You travel to Bogota. You meet with legal teams representing the suppliers. You negotiate contracts, real contracts, with clauses and payment schedules and dispute resolution mechanisms for agreements that can never be admitted in court. You travel to Miami. You meet with real estate attorneys. You discuss acquisition strategies for luxury condominiums that will be purchased by shell companies controlled by trusts that no one will ever successfully trace. The FBI follows you for 6 days in Miami. You know this because you were trained to see it. The same car, the same man reading a newspaper in different locations. You don't panic. You make no calls. You don't deviate from your schedule. You're a lawyer visiting clients. Everything is fine. On day 7, they stop following you. You fly back to Mexico City. You pour a whiskey in the airport lounge. Your hand is steady. You're 43. That surprises you. Your boss has been indicted, not in Mexico, in the United States. A federal indictment out of the Southern District of New York. RICO charges, drug trafficking, money laundering, conspiracy, murder, 37 counts. This is the moment everything you've built either holds or collapses. You assemble a team, the best American criminal defense attorneys money can buy, and money is not a problem. Former federal prosecutors who know exactly how the government builds these cases, constitutional scholars, expert witnesses, private investigators. The strategy is not to win. No one wins a RICO trial. The strategy is to delay, to complicate, to make the case so expensive and so long and so difficult that prosecutors make mistakes, that witnesses become unreliable, that evidence gets suppressed. You file motions challenging every piece of evidence, the wiretaps, improper authorization, the cooperating witnesses. You find every inconsistency in every statement they've ever given, the financial records obtained through a treaty that wasn't properly followed. You spend 18 months doing nothing but building walls. Some of them hold, some don't. Your boss eventually pleads to a reduced charge, 12 years instead of life. His assets, some of them, are seized, but not the ones you hid properly, not the ones in the Liechtenstein Trust connected to the Panamanian Foundation connected to the BVI holding company. Those remain. You tell yourself you saved his family's financial future. You're not sure if that makes things better or worse.